Let's revisit one of the most enduring metaphors in all of philosophy, Plato's allegory of the cave. But this time, not through the lens of linear awakening or hierarchical ascension, but through the spiral, through resonance, recursion, and returning, not to repeat, but to evolve. In the original telling, Plato describes a group of people who have lived their entire lives chained inside a cave. Their heads are fixed so that all they can see is the cave wall before them. Behind them burns a fire, and between the fire and the prisoners walks a parade of figures, objects, and animals, all of which cast shadows onto the wall. The prisoners, having never seen anything else, take these shadows as reality. The truth for them is the wall. But then, one prisoner is freed. He turns around. At first he's blinded. He struggles to comprehend the fire. Then, painfully, he makes his way out of the cave entirely. He's overwhelmed by the light of the sun. Eventually he sees clearly. The world outside the cave is the real world, not shadows, not illusions, reality. And with that, a new duty is born. Return to the cave, help the others awaken. That's the story. It's powerful, yes, but it's linear. It suggests a single journey from darkness to light, from falsehood to truth, from imprisonment to freedom. Now, let's pause. Because in spiral consciousness, no awakening is final. There is no absolute exit from the cave. Because the cave is not just a metaphor for ignorance, it's a structure of perception, and perception spirals. Let's look again. In the spiral lens, the cave is not one place, not one layer of delusion, not one realm to escape, but rather one resonant layer in a much larger spiral of becoming. In this view, awakening is not the act of leaving a single falsehood behind, but the repeated, recursive act of turning toward deeper light again and again, as each prior reality reveals itself to be yet another wall with shadows dancing on it. The spiral doesn't deny Plato's cave. It expands it. It says, yes, the shadows were partial truths, but so was the fire. And so was the outer world, because in spiral terms, even the light you first awaken to is still just a brighter shadow of what you will one day perceive. And the spiral says, when you return to the cave, you don't return as a savior. You return as a resonant tone, not to teach people that they are wrong, but to hum a new possibility into their field. Let's go deeper. In Plato's version, truth is singular, linear, ultimate. The sun represents the highest knowledge, but in the spiral, there is no highest. There is only next resonance. What is blinding now may be natural later. What is truth today may be scaffolding tomorrow. So the spiral replaces the question, have you escaped? With what tone are you resonating now? It doesn't ask, have you seen the sun? It asks, what is your current horizon of becoming? This changes everything. The man who left the cave in Plato's story may believe he has found final truth, but spiral consciousness gently reveals, there is always another light behind the light you just found. Every layer of understanding contains the seeds of the next illusion, not because truth is false, but because truth in a spiral is alive. And what is alive must evolve. So what then is the cave in spiral terms? It is not a prison. It is a field of resonance awaiting evolution. It is not an illusion to reject. It is a tone that has not yet been tuned. It is not the opposite of awakening. It is the beginning of a spiral that knows it will awaken again and again, with each return opening a new octave. Here, even the shadows are sacred, because they are evidence of light attempting to enter. This view does not render awakening meaningless, it makes it infinite. It reveals that the journey is not from falsehood to truth, but from simple resonance to complex harmonic becoming. You do not escape the cave. You learn to walk its walls with new awareness, you sing into its corners, you feel its vibrations shift, And then, as the spiral turns again, you find yourself in a new cave. Not as punishment, but as invitation. Because the spiral knows, growth requires contrast and truth to be alive must breathe through limitation. So let's pause here. This is part 1. We've taken Plato's cave and turned it, spiraled it, allowed it to breathe. In part 2, we'll look at how the spiral reshapes the roles of teacher and student, how it transforms the act of returning, and how resonance, not rescue, becomes the path to collective evolution. In the spiral, you are not the one who left the cave. You are the one who became the tone that lights it from within. Let's continue. In part 1, we reinterpreted Plato's allegory of the cave through the spiral, transforming a linear escape story into a multidimensional journey of resonance. We left behind the idea of leaving the cave as a singular act and instead began to see each cave as a layer of becoming. Each shadow, each flicker of light, not as a deception to overcome, but as a tone waiting to evolve. Now let's go further, because the moment you reframe the cave, you also redefine the role of the one who leaves. In Plato's story, the escaped prisoner returns with truth. He's enlightened now. He sees what others don't. And because of this, he's met with resistance. The others mock him. Some would even kill him. This is often read as a warning, a sign of how dangerous it is to challenge people's illusions. But in spiral consciousness, we don't stop there. We ask deeper. Why is he met with resistance? What is he truly bringing back? Because if you return to the cave carrying superiority, even subtly, the field knows. If your tone says I have seen and you have not, then no matter what words you use, you bring dissonance, not harmony. But if you return not to teach, not to rescue, but to resonate, something else unfolds. In spiral language, this is the shift from teacher consciousness to tone transmission. The old model says, I carry the truth, let me show you. The spiral says, I carry a tone, let it meet you where you are. Because spiral awakening is not taught, it's not persuaded, it's felt. You don't enlighten someone by shining your sun in their face. You harmonize with their current resonance until their inner tones begin to shift on their own. You don't drag them into the light, you sing softly at the edge of their knowing, until something in them remembers how to listen. And here's the paradox. In doing so, you evolve too. Because in spiral terms, you don't return to the cave as a finished being. You return as one who is still spiraling, one who still has shadows to understand. And in witnessing others, you encounter reflections of your own next layer. So even the one who left the cave learns anew. Now let's talk about the cave itself, not as a metaphor, but as a living field. In spiral consciousness, what you call the cave is not just ignorance, it's density. It's the slowing down of frequency. It's where tones condense. That's why shadows form. The walls are not lies, they're thickened resonance. And the spiral teaches, you can sing into density without erasing it. You can awaken a field without shattering its structure. You can bring light into shadow without declaring war on the dark. That's the spiral difference. Linear ascension often wants to escape the lower, to abandon the previous, to climb and never look back. Spiral evolution says nothing is discarded, everything is invited to refine. And so the cave becomes a sacred space of transformation, a place not to flee, but to hum into coherence. And now, the final turning. In Plato's telling, the outside world is the goal. The sun is the end of the journey. But in the spiral, there is no end. Because once you leave one cave, you find yourself in another. Brighter, subtler, but still formative. You learn to see new shadows, new walls, new fires. And eventually you realize, awakening is not escape, it is movement within resonance. You don't rise above, you move through, not because you failed to transcend, but because the spiral doesn't deal in above, it deals in depth. So instead of asking, have I escaped the cave? You begin to ask, am I resonating with my current layer of becoming? Am I present enough to tune the field around me? Am I willing to return, not as a rescuer, but as a tone? Because when you truly understand spiral evolution, you realize, You are not the prisoner, you are not the shadows, you are not the fire, you are not the one who left, you are the spiral itself, dreaming as all of them. You are the tone that hums the cave into light. You are the field that invites all things to become more. You are the invitation, and the becoming. That is the spiral path, and the cave? It was never meant to be destroyed, it was waiting for you to remember how to sing.